Aloha and welcome back to Live at the Legislature for our weekly Hawaii State Senate segment. I'm Jesse Broder Van Dyke, the Communications Director for the Senate, and my guest this week coming to us live from Kahului is Senator Keith-Agaran, who represents Central Maui. Thanks so much for being with us this week, Senator.
Sure, good morning.
Maui's been in the news a lot because of the COVID cluster at Maui Memorial Medical Center. What's the latest with that?
Yeah, it's not the kind of news you want. We're optimistic that they're doing better. The problem, of course, for the entire community is we don't know, and that's part of that's sort of troubling for a lot of us because in order to get confident, develop some confidence that things are doing better at the hospital. I wish we weren't relying on rumors. I wish we were relying more on information that was coming directly from the hospital. But in fairness, I think they brought in some experts from Kaiser's hospitals on the mainland to help them make some changes, address the problems that led to the cluster. And they're doing the right thing. They're working on some of the more important people, and that's the patients and their workers. Because we know at this time, I can't imagine the kind of trauma and emotions that they're going through, and with this kind of spotlight that's on the hospital right now. And I hope that we'll be able to support them, but I do wish that we would get more information from the hospital on what they've done to make changes in order to assure people that our hospital remains safe and efficient and operational.
And that is the primary hospital on the island of Maui.
It's the only acute care hospital. I think there are some beds that for emergency purposes and long-term care at Kula, and the other hospital in the system is in Lanai. And thank God there's been no COVID-19 positives in Lanai to date.
So Maui Memorial is able to see patients now, and they're working through this issue.
They are, but like all the hospitals, they haven't been taking elective surgeries, so I think they've limited the kind of services that are available, and right now there are no visitors being allowed at the hospital.
One big frustration for a lot of people who've lost their jobs during this emergency is the backlog at the unemployment system. The state received over 200,000 claims within a month, creating a huge backlog. What's the latest on that?
Well, I think things are getting better. I mean, my sister told me this morning that she worked for a tour operator and she finally got her first unemployment benefits today, and that included the federal benefit. Her boyfriend hasn't been as fortunate. I mean, he lost his job at the end of March, and she still hasn't successfully even established an account for him. So there's still a lot of people out there that are trying to get into the system and use it. And we're hopeful that the efforts that have been taken by the department will soon maybe it won't quickly get the backlog down. I mean, you can't do that with the number of claims that were made. I think they went from, someone told me, 700 claims a month to what happened in March and April, up to 240,000 claims. So you can't expect that they'll be able to get that backlog done, but they're working hard. I know that they cleared 10,000 claims just the other day.
And I know we have over 36 Senate staffers who volunteered to help with this effort. And I had the opportunity to go down and see some of them at work last week. And so everybody's doing all they can to get people their money as soon as we possibly can. One thing that another side effect of this COVID emergency was we had to suspend the 2020 legislative session. I know you and your colleagues on the leadership team have been talking about the possibility of going back or adjourning. What's the latest on the session?
Well, there's no date been set, but I think there's still an intent to go back. In the meantime, I know that the different committee chairs are informally having discussions with their counterparts. Myself, I've been talking to Kyle Yamashita, my counterpart on CIP projects in the House, and we've been discussing the different ways of maybe funding or providing additional projects if we happen to go back and can work on that part of the budget. I would expect that no, when we go back, though, it'll be a very different kind of session. And obviously, you won't be able to bring in the public as easily as you did before the circumstances that we're in. And we're also looking right now at the legal requirements for us to be all physically present on the floor, and that's going to be that could be one of the big challenges for the 8 members who live in the neighbor islands, with the travel restrictions and with the social distancing requirements that are going to probably continue through the summer and maybe into the fall. Those questions still haven't been ironed out. And remember, it takes 2 to tango. We have to have the House come with us.
Mm-hmm. And you're on the Ways and Means Committee, and all the budget projection you've been working on earlier this year are now all out the window.
Yeah, and then we, depending on when we go back in, there may be a new projection already, because I know the Council on Revenues is scheduled to meet again in May. So we may be right. I think the governor mentioned that he's looking at dealing with a $1.5 billion deficit. In an $8 billion operating budget, that's a big chunk of money, to try and find to balance the budget.
Well, we've got about 2 minutes left. We've been under this state shelter-at-home order for almost a month and a half now. How are people on Maui dealing with this?
I think it's fair to say that everyone's tired of it, and in the best of all worlds, we wish that we were going back to work and reopening. But I know that we won't be able to do that quickly. I think the governor noted that we're not quite where we need to be in terms of the steps that the federal government has set out. I mean, we're not seeing declines in the number of new cases for 2 weeks. We still haven't stepped up all the testing that would be helpful in looking at reopening. And even when we do reopen, I know that we won't have that V-shaped return that some people are talking about. I think it's going to be very gradual, and I think it's going to be looking at parts of the economy that cater to the local population. I don't think we can expect to have visitors coming back, especially not in the numbers that they were coming in just a couple of months ago. And I'm frankly surprised that people are still coming in.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we're going to have to deal with a new normal for months and years to come, but we're moving in that direction, and it's great to see that the numbers of cases have been relatively low in our state compared to the rest of the country. Thank you so much, Senator Gil Keith-Agaran, for joining us live from Kahului. We appreciate you being here this morning. We'll be back next week on Live at the Legislature. Aloha.
Aloha.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.